Hello, everyone. It's Simon here from HiveKeepers, and today I've got Sarah Cross from Sarah Sees Bees. It's great to have you here, Sarah, and I'm thrilled to be able to have this conversation with you today. Before we get started, though, do you want to just tell people who you are, where you're from, and why you thought we should get together and have a conversation?
Awesome. Hi, Simon. So I am from little old New Zealand,
Woo.
and I run a very cool little company that helps mainly hobby beekeepers with education and hands-on beekeeping help and assistance at your hive. So very hands-on, and that's everything from grower to general maintenance through to honey harvesting. So I thought this would be a very cool little product that might head out to a lot of my clients. So I just wanted to learn a little bit more and see how it's going to work.
Perfect. Well, I think lots of people are curious about what we're doing. So to be able to have this conversation is a great way. I want you to advocate on behalf of all of these people that are wanting to know more. So maybe the best thing I do is just show you. I've got a few things sitting here. Maybe I'll do a bit of a show and tell, Sarah. You're going to naturally get curious as you go, because I know the sort of person that you are. You're going to want to know some things, and we'll just have a conversation about it. And hopefully that's of interest to the people that are watching, and it can help them understand a bit more about the HiveKeepers micro honey harvester. Sound good?
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Well, quite simply, the HiveKeepers micro honey harvester is supposed to be a really easy way to get honey out of a beehive. And Sarah, we've been working on this for about 3 years. I've been a beekeeper for nearly 15 years, to be honest. And in that time, I've tried all the different ways to do it. And it drives me a little bit crazy that I couldn't find a really easy way. So I've been working with these great team here in Melbourne to try to solve all these problems. So what I said to them, Sarah, was, this was literally the brief. Can we get honey out of a beehive? Can I harvest honey in the same time it takes to cook a bit of toast, cook a bit of bread? And we went with that. Whether we've quite got there or not, that's still debatable. But I said, that's what I want to be able to do. And they helped me understand all the different problems. Now, you would know all of these. There's uncapping. You need to remove the cappings off the frame. We need to then have some sort of a system to extract the honey to get it out. We then go through filtering, which is
You forgot to add in you need muscles to lift the honey boxes off.
You need muscles. You do. Well, I was going to come to that too, actually, because it's by the time you go through the filtering, by the time you then do all the cleanup, it's taken hours, sometimes days, especially when you try to break it up over a bit of time. And it's hard work. It's really tough work. So it's also really expensive to accumulate lots of it. I don't know how you go, Sarah, but my other half, Emily, gets driven crazy by the fact that it takes up half of the garage.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
Is that relatable to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So you've either got my clients who have just started and they try and do it in their kitchen.
Yeah.
Because they don't have all the gear, and then the whole kitchen gets disgraceful and it just takes so long. It's almost, or you get the other people, like you mentioned, who buy all the gear, which is fun, but then it takes up a massive amount. So yeah, you've got both sides of
So that's driven me wild for a long time. Today, I want to show you I was going to just show you a pretend harvest. Down here, I've actually got a honey-filled cassette that I want to harvest with you. So I'm going to actually, I've never done that online with someone before, so it's kind of cool. But let me just show you a little bit first. The first thing to show you is the HiveKeepers frame. This frame here is just a standard Langstroth frame, and it should look pretty familiar to most people. And it has our cassettes in there. There's a few cassettes missing at the moment, so I've harvested some. I've swapped a few around. But as you can see here on a standard full-depth Langstroth frame, you would fit 8 pairs of cassettes in there. And that's just simply take one out of your normal hive, drop this in. Simple as that. How it works, Sarah, is these come out. They only come out one particular way. Just going to put that out of the way. And you could imagine that being nicely capped. And I'll show you that in a minute. There's 2 parts here. The 2 parts come apart. And the cappings stay on. You don't remove the cappings. The cappings are no longer needing to be removed with this. Now, you look surprised.
Because you've opened the back instead of the front.
Aha.
That's already like, okay, that's amazing.
So no uncapping is the first thing I wanted to say. We don't worry about uncapping. Obviously, we don't want to harvest honey unless it's nicely capped. Now, some of the cassettes down here might have the odd cell not capped. I don't particularly worry about that. I don't think you would either. Then we've got this machine here, the benchtop machine. Bring that forward to you. This one here is designed for beekeepers, small scale beekeepers.
Yeah.
I wanted a handle. I wanted it to feel like a bucket that you carry down to your beehive. Now you can also, you're talking before about harvesting in the kitchen. It's also designed to be really easy to harvest in the kitchen, or in the middle of an inspection when you're checking your bees and you look there and go, there's a little bit of surplus honey here. I think I should take a few cassettes. You could just do that out there with them.
Which you wouldn't usually be able to do if you're not prepared to. Oh, that's brilliant. Yep, 100%.
Exactly. And I wanted to find a way where you could just incorporate this into your normal routine. You didn't have to set aside a special harvesting day. Now, I know some people love the harvesting experience. I'm not trying to change that for those people. Just if that's still how you love it, do it that way. Don't change. But I tell you what, when you see harvesting this shortly with some real honey, it's still a really amazing experience. So there's a honey harvester. We put these cassettes in there, slide them in opposite ways so that the actual caps are facing inwards.
Yes. Yep.
We spin this for about 20 seconds and out it flows. And most of it comes out in the first 20 seconds. So that's the general idea of how it works. I'm sure you're curious about something there. Is there some question you've got? Then I'm going to show it to you.
Just because we're obviously on camera and I can't, touchy with it myself. The cells that they're putting the honey into, are they already what we call fully drawn? Do you know what I mean? Like, so the whole cell is made from plastic, is that right?
It is. So it's a three-dimensional structure. I'm trying to show you that as best as I can. It's drawn out to, I think it is 12 millimeters on each side. I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's drawn out. You can sort of see the thickness there. They have a tendency sometimes to bring it out. Look at this.
Cool. Okay. So already we've deemed it that they don't mind at all that it's made from plastic. I mean, I can see that myself. Because I feel like might be someone's question that they're worried that it's plastic, they won't put honey in it. But there's your proof right there. So
I'm not going to try and pretend to you here, Sarah. The first time your bees come across these, they need to get used to plastic. Anyone who's ever used anything plastic in their beehive knows that. We are no different. I'm not trying to pretend we're any different there. Once they've used it makes it they really don't see it any different.
So our and I'm not sure if the same as in Australia, but all of our plastic frames come with a very thin layer of wax on the top. Would that be something that you could do yourself with these? Like if I just order you?
What I want to be able to do, and I don't want to make a promise I can't keep yet, Sarah. I want to actually be able to provide them already beeswax.
Yeah, that's how we buy them in. Yeah,
we have looked into the arrangement of how we do that, but then because we're Australian based, how do I do that here and then get it to you without?
True.
It's actually not so bad. It's actually doable, and it's doable in the other countries that we're intending to sell this into. So I'm actually not too worried about that. But I just need to dot my I's and cross my T's before I make a promise around that. But that does make a difference. But ultimately, what does make the biggest difference is that there's a nectar flow on, and a really good nectar flow that doesn't matter. They'll just put it anywhere.
Yeah, and that's not a big. A lot of us wax our own frames anyway, so that is not a be all and end all. Yeah.
The reason I want to wax that and provide it that way is because then we know it's been done a certain way every time.
True.
Because if you do too much on this, it'll block the bottom of the cells so that when you go to harvest, it won't come out as easy. So I just want to know that how you get this from us is in the perfect way for it to be able to be used really well.
Awesome idea.
I'd love to show you. Yeah. Just going to try and do this like this. Very awkward doing it, trying to show you.
On camera, yeah.
I'm going to just put that to the side. And
okay, so you push that out one way, but that's the whole thing. That's two parts. Oh, cool. Okay, so it can go out either way.
Yeah, so it goes out one way only, but there's the cassette pair.
The whole thing,
and that cassette pair, they're different colours because they are two different pieces, so it's quite deliberate. You can see. I'll try and get it up close. I don't know if that's. You can sort of see the lovely work that the girls have done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That wouldn't worry me.
No,
I'm going to just try and put it on a side angle. You can see that they've built out a little bit in that lower half. They can more than just that too. But I don't mind in the area, and they want to preserve that honey. They'll cap it, and it'll be a little bit sunken in the cell, which is fine as well.
That's what they do on any frame, so it's not like it's
It's no different, is it?
No.
It's no different. I'm just going to put that down for a second because I just want to do this. I was harvesting some honey in here earlier, so it's already got some honey in the bottom of this. And then, so from here, all we do is just pop it apart. And this is an older version that we've been testing for the last 6 months. The next version, the version that we'll take to market, has a key. Goes in the top, pops it open so that you don't have to force anything. Because at the moment, there's a little bit of effort required.
Yeah.
But we knew we had to fix that. Put the key in, quarter turn, pops it open. So while it's not too hard for me to do here, it does take a little bit of work. And then that comes apart.
That's cool. That's cool.
And half of it is open and half of it is closed because it doesn't come rushing out in a hurry either. I thought something was about to come out, but no, it doesn't come rushing out in a hurry because, well, you know, honey's viscous.
Yeah, it shouldn't. Yeah.
And what I'm going to do next, might even slide this forward. I'm just going to slide this in. So there's a holder in here. Just slides in.
That's cool.
And the cappings are on the inside. So you can see there, I know there's reflections which are a little bit annoying.
That's right, I can see.
There you go. You can see there the inside of the cells essentially is what's facing you now. I'm going to put the lid on.
I also love right there, straight away.
Yep.
You've eliminated any kind of robbing.
Any kind of?
Robbing.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like when we take honey off and that lovely smell of bees and wax and honey comes out and every neighborhood bee comes, you've straight away stopped that. Like there's nothing coming out.
This is our prototype, and I've used it so many times now, Sarah. We had our launch event last night here in Melbourne.
Oh, cool.
All these people handling it, and I'm just realising a closer look because they've played with it, haven't they, of course? I'm hoping I can hold that there because the lid's just being a bit funnier on this. We are in business.
I don't know if I should start a fight here, but have you tried to get any Manuka, New Zealand Manuka out of there?
Well, no, I have not. We've had some people over here ask the same question as well, and they're really curious about that. I haven't tried, but I know that I would just be putting that back to the bees personally. But how do you successfully harvest that now anyway?
Oh, exactly. I was going to say even our big commercials have to get a whole separate thing to So I was just pushing your buttons there for New Zealand Manuka.
Well, Tixotropic honey, we've been asked that plenty of times.
Yeah.
We have some over here. We've had some thicker honeys, but nothing too much. But the best thing is, and I know it doesn't solve it for the Manuka honey, but if you're harvesting straight out of the hive, Sarah, it's so easy. It's already elevated temperature. It flows really well, as you know. So it's really great. Now, I'm going to adjust this ever so slightly because I just want you to see it in the best angle. And I'm going to push this button. Now, I push the button below. It's just out of screen. Push that button and it'll run for 20 seconds. So let's have a look, eh?
Oh, so it's already on a timer?
Yep, hands off.
Cool. Okay, that's cool.
How's that?
As a visual, that is amazing.
So I talked before, Sarah, about we love a honey harvest experience. Some people really love that.
Yeah.
And I tell you, this is lovely.
It just looks really, really cool. Can I ask how? I'm assuming that's charged some way, or
there's batteries in the base, and it will harvest more than 2 full frames.
Brilliant.
So that's that done. I'm going to just come back a bit. So I love how it flows down the sides. It looks so good.
Cool. They did a very good job, I can see.
Yeah. So I could press it again, I will. There'll be some more that comes. Actually, do you know what I want you to look at? Can you see on that wall any honeycomb or bit?
Any what, sorry?
Any honeycomb?
Oh, no. No, looks good.
I'll be honest, let me have a close look, so I'll probably see easier than you. I can see a tiny little dot of beeswax there.
That's nothing compared to when we
can see-
uncap it. Yeah.
I can see another one there. And that's it.
Yeah.
So I'd eat the honey just like that. I'm going to press it one more time. Let's have one more look because a little bit more will come out.
But you're right. I mean, the amount of filtering that we have to do to get out the bee legs and all the wax and all the bits and pieces. And that's, oh, yeah, you can see extras coming out. Oh, that's cool.
I would say, and I don't have like non-scientific answer here, Sarah. I reckon you get 70+% out the first spin, depending on the flow of the honey on the day.
Yeah.
What I'm getting here is obviously more. I can't probably see it as easy as I can, but we're not getting much more. It's just a little bit. And we're not getting all that beeswax being pulled through. We've got the speed about right to make sure we're doing the right thing there.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's how it works. And,
I mean,
go on.
The fact that all of my extractors that I have and that I lend out to all of my clients and stuff are all manual extractors, which means
really?
physical hand. The fact that you just did that with the push of a button is already like a million times easier than yeah, that's very, very cool.
The one thing I do, so I'm going to just pull it apart a little bit and I'm going to get the honey out. There's a fair bit of, it actually doesn't look like much honey when it does it, Sarah, especially if there wasn't already honey in the bottom of the bowl. But once it settles down, I mean, I use something like a spatula to help me. But you get about, across an entire frame, you get about 1.4, 1.5 kilograms.
Oh, cool.
I know that's less than a normal frame if you were to harvest in other ways. Not arguing that one, that's just the truth. So we've got this bit in the middle. I'll go on.
Yeah.
This bit in the middle comes out. That's just had the, I mean, I could have taken the cassettes out from there, but I'll just quickly move that. We've got to talk about how well they go going back into the hive. I'll come back to that soon.
Oh, yeah.
And the base comes apart. So this is basically just a bowl now, isn't it? And this base can just be charged the back there with the USB-C.
Oh, brilliant.
And this is designed, so it's just a real easy, hang on, I'm going to swap hands here. So
put it straight on your toast.
you can. And I'm going to take a moment, so I just want to clean this out. I'm not going to lose sight of my face for a minute.
That's amazing.
And there's about 3 cassettes worth here. And, oh, there's heaps. There's always more than you think. You know,
yes.
Normal harvest.
Yes, always.
Scrape it out and you get way more than you thought there was going to be.
Always.
So I'm looking, the other idea behind this, Sarah, and hopefully you can hear me all right because I've got this thing in front of my face.
Yeah.
But is I wanted it to be something which didn't feel like you had to harvest lots and lots of honey in one go, because I actually don't eat huge quantities of honey. I like a little bit often, but not much. My whole family would be lucky to go through 1 kilo in 2 months. With the old way of harvesting, you feel like you need to get all the honey, don't you?
But the fact that you can scrape it out, like you can't do that with the big extractor. You either have to like sit it there for 3 days and let it rinse out, or, you know, and let it flow out, or you just like me and are too lazy and I just have to rinse it out with the hose and waste heaps of honey. So the fact that you can actually scrape the sides already, you're getting so much more honey than I could ever get out of my extractor. That's cool. It
keeps on coming, to be honest.
It's never ending.
I don't want to bore everybody, but I will just get a little bit more out. And then
that's a huge amount.
I'm still going.
So how many cassettes do you think that was altogether? You pre-did
this was 3. There was 2 cassettes yesterday.
Yep.
Oh, hang on. This is 4 cassettes. I don't want to sort of say the wrong thing.
So
that's 4 cassettes. Yeah.
Sorry, Simon. So when you say cassette, you're saying both sides? Okay, so just my brain's, yep.
I don't know what the weight of this is. I look in there and there's a few tiny, you know what I do is talking about beeswax and bits and stuff. I can see a tiny one there.
That's nothing.
I think it's done. That's all you need to do. It's as simple as that. And that's, you know, that's a lot of honey. That there is, and I could have got quite a bit more out of that, I reckon. But we're talking hundreds of grams, no problem.
Yeah, that's a solid little jar of honey, easy.
And that would take my family a month to eat. I know that. I'm okay with not providing my whole neighbourhood and my whole family with honey. And I think I only did that because when you go and have the old school method, you're just harvesting for the sake of harvesting.
Yeah.
I want to do it. You just want to do it as much as you can because it's such an effort.
Yeah.
And I'll show you one more thing.
Yeah.
I've got to move. I'm going to bring the camera with me
Take me on a tour.
in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Melbourne. So cleaning this thing up, how long do you reckon?
Oh, see, that's what I tell people, Simon, the only saving grace for honey is that it's water soluble and it rinses out. So probably not long.
So I'm going to do it for you because I just want you to believe me. So there's a little bit more honey left in here than I'd like to have. So if I spent a little bit more time, I would have got a bit more out. It's the hottest water in Melbourne.
But the fact, like I say, the fact that you could scrape it, you got so much more honey than I
really
can ever get out of my big extractor. I waste so much, it's really bad. Because you have to clean it or else you get the robbers. So yeah.
So I'm just going to rinse
Done.
it out. Last little rinse.
Done.
That'll dry and
Yep.
we're absolutely done. That's how it works. I'm going to come back and meet you over there.
It's definitely a lot quicker than cleaning my big extractor outside, I tell you. That's cool.
Less hot water as well. So cool. I'll just set that back up for us so we're where we want to be. I wanted to tell you about the cassettes after harvested them. So this back up again. So they're in here right now. I'll slide that out there. Slide the other one out. Cappings all still there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these go back together quite well. I say quite well because the next version that we've created that is not this version go back together really nicely.
Okay.
Because a little bit of that beeswax there just gets in the way for this version. But once we've got that next one, they'll fit really well together. And then you can put them back in the frame and the bees will clear the beeswax there. They remove the cappings. You might know more about this than me, but they somehow can sense through foot vibrations that the cell's empty.
Because that's exactly what I was going to ask is do they, because if they left it in there and thinking it's full, cool.
Are you at
I'm
all
glad you've done
surprised by that? Are you
Yeah.
at all surprised that they know how to do that?
Oh, no, definitely not surprised. But it's more, like I say, honey. I've never been a honey chaser. So, yeah, I don't know as much about that. But I'm glad you've tested that.
Yeah, so what I've done, so you could put this back in and they would just remove the beeswax, repurpose it, do whatever they want, clean out those cells, because obviously they'll find a bit of honey, they'll do a bit of work with that, and they'll just get on with it. What I've also done, because I've wanted to test out a few things, I've just put these back in the top of the hive, under the lid, let them clean it out in there. The cappings go, any little loose bits here go, and it's all done in about a day. Depending on how
same as what we do for, like a whole box when what we call our stickies. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to always do that. Our next version of these cassettes, which are much more advanced than what this is, I don't think we'll get as much build up here, and therefore it'll go back together really nicely. So I don't think you'll have to do that, but still knowing you can to clean it up, the bees love it. Now, while I've got this open, I wonder if I can show how easy I can show this to you. You might not see it. Can you see much honey left in there, Sarah?
Oh, I can't really tell very much, but I'm gonna say no. The amount that came out, I would be surprised that there's any left in it. But yeah.
So let me try to be honest with you here. I can definitely see one cell which has quite a bit in it. That's it. Really just that. There's a little bit of loose honey, just a couple of cells.
No one. Doesn't matter what you're using. No one's getting out 100%. Like there's no.
No, that's right. And that side is the same too. I can see a little bit.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because it's got that funny little different wax at the top. But
you're always going to get a bit of that. But overall, that's really efficient. That is the HiveKeepers micro honey harvester, Sarah.
Very cool.
Now,
very cool.
I'm sure you've got some thoughts and ideas. I'm sure you've got some pressing questions. I'd love to
so pressing.
hear them.
All right, my little pea brain's going so fast. So I'm looking at the whole frame there with the cassettes. So from what I gather, you can just put in one. Do you know what I mean? You can just replace one of your normal honey frames with one 8 cassette. Yeah. Yeah.
When we first started this, and we've only been really talking to the world about this for the last sort of month and a half, our initial starting thought was we'll provide the starter kit would include a harvester. It would include 2 of these frames full of cassettes, plus a couple of spare cassettes. Because, you know, if you lost one of these for some reason and you had an open section, that's no good. So let's not make that impossible for you. We'll give you a couple of spares. We were thinking that that would be like a really good starting spot, and you could have 1 or 2 in maybe the same hive or in different hives and see what happens. So I still think that that makes sense in my head, but I've been really surprised, Sarah, how many people have said, I just want to fill that whole box with these, the whole top box.
Wow, cool.
Just want to fill it. And I mean, that's what you don't know until people start giving you that feedback, do you? So I think, yes, you could just put one in. You could fill that whole top section. I do want to, well, we talked about it already, that beeswax side of things, plastic side of things, that first time, they will take a little bit of time to get used to it. So you can do a few tricks there. You can put that box in with the honey, with another honey super above. So they have to walk through to get to that honey super above. I know some people that have done that before with plastic frames, and that's worked really well. I did something a little while ago, which worked amazingly well for me. So I had a 3-box hive. 2 bottom ones were brood. Top one was honey. Our frames, full of these frames, and I needed to get some of these ready, Sarah, for a presentation. And I was worried that we had terrible summer over here in Victoria. We didn't have good honey. I really needed to get honey. But they had quite a fair bit of store in the brood chamber, and the brood chamber had moved all the way down to the bottom of the 2 boxes. And what I did is I swapped that bottom box with the middle box, which had a fair bit of honey. And in that bottom box, which was a fair bit of their original honey from winter, I scraped off some of it. And they don't like honey being below the brood. And within about a week and a half, they'd almost, not completely, but they'd moved a lot of that honey up in here. Awesome. And now they see this as just normal honeycomb to them. It's just that
they figured it out.
That first time, it takes a while. Anyone that's worked with plastic knows that. So anyway, that was a really interesting lesson to learn about how to encourage them into using these frames. But what do you think you'd do? Do you think you'd have a frame, or do you think you'd do box work? What sort of do you think your people, or what do you think your people would think of?
I would definitely see so many people wanting to try it, even just one to try it. But my little thought is that because you take the cassettes out and then you do the little sort of reverse and put them in. So you would really have to make sure that you had the full 10 frames so that they wouldn't draw more wax out. Is that right? If they drew too much wax out, I don't think that would fit into the cassettes. Is that right?
They can go
into the extractor, sorry?
No, it's not too bad. We've got some clearance. Again, this is a prototype version. The next version, there's quite a bit of clearance there. But if the capping does come off, it's okay. I don't know how best to show you that. There's a few things that change in the next design because it's a little bit tricky to get the cassette in such a tiny little opening. We've made that really easy for the next one. And also there's about a finger's width clearance there for capping. So for honeycomb. So if it builds up a fair way out from the existing cassette, it still will fit in. That next version, we've made even more space because we tried it a few times. We've had some amazing honeycomb develop off the actual surface of the cassette. And I was thinking, it's no way it's going to fit in here, but it fitted in really well.
Because the other side is, like I say, if we've got plastic frames and if they're drawing, like if you've got all brand new, what we call foundation frames, with nothing on them, and if they're drawing the wax out from everywhere, I just have to make sure that we put in 10 frames so they're hopefully making the wax evenly on each sides. Well, that makes you think maybe I should get all 10 so at least they're all even and they all fit in together.
And I think I know what you're saying before. Maybe I didn't answer you as well as I could have, but if you've got a frame next to this that may be just traditional, like you're saying, foundation, and they're building off that, they might, when they're drawing out those, they might come up fairly close to this. I think that's what to say, isn't it? So I think you're right. They will come up fairly close. Not a big deal. What I have also done, because I just wanted to try it earlier, is I could I almost say the word checkerboarding? I alternated between one of these frames, normal frame, HiveKeepers frame, normal frame.
Yeah.
See what happens. So I definitely observe what you're saying, that they did draw
I
it
do
out.
that. Yeah.
And they definitely spent more time on those natural frames first before they were prepared to
That's
spend.
standard. Doesn't matter what you put in, they're always going to choose the wax and the wood ones. But like I say, half the time the bees, we think we're in charge, Simon, but the bees do whatever they want anyway. So
We are not in charge, are we?
they'll do it anyway.
Yeah, we're actually investigating some really interesting other materials. Everyone knows that most plastics come from a petrochemical background, and they're much more stable than people really learn about plastic. The stability behind a lot of these plastics is not so bad. I know that people say, "Oh, microplastics, this and that." I'm concerned about those too. I think about that as well. I'm not that anxious about what we've got here because I know that the bees put a great layer of beeswax on the product to begin with before they even put honey in there, and that stays on. That doesn't get dislodged in the process. But we're finding some new materials that we can use, some bio-resin products, so bioplastics, and we're not ready to, we haven't even tested them yet, but I see a future where we can change it because I know what people are going to want. But like you said, if we can get away from plastic, people would really like that. But like you said, it's actually what the bees want. It's not about what I want, this guy. It's not about what you want. It's not about what everyone wants. The bees will make the choice for us. And I'm not completely happy yet. I'm going to keep pushing and trying. We're working with some really interesting people about different products, different materials, I should say. And who knows, maybe in the next year or two, this will be a completely different material that hasn't been used in the beehive. That's a game changer, but one step at a time.
Yes. And that's the thing. I mean, I know we say that, the bees love the wood and everything, but from someone who I can't do the wooden frames because they break all the time. So you've got to get that between strength and doing the job and what do the bees love and all that jazz. So I would rather not spend money on a product that is just going to break in 2 seconds. I would rather know that it's going to, do its job properly.
Do our New Zealand buddies over there, do you harvest, or would you normally have in your honey supers a full depth frame like this?
Both. So I was going to ask about the 3/4 as well. There's not really more or less. It's just it's one and the same. Like it's all the same. But I do know that a lot of my clients, and I mentioned this at a bit of a pre-bit, but a lot of my clients are, because they have now the time and the sort of the money and the effort to do it, they get into beekeeping a little bit later in life, and it's that weight. And that's why that's the only reason they go to 3/4. But for something like this, if you don't have to lift it up, who cares if it's full depth? You know what I mean? You can just lift up one little frame. Anyone can do that. Like it kind of negates the whole point of putting 3/4 honey boxes on. So
we know that it's a really big thing in North America. So whilst at the moment we will be doing full depth frames, absolutely we'll be offering a different option in the future. And that'll be as same cassette size, but obviously 4 across and only 1 down. So 4 cassette pairs. I wanted to know that about New Zealand. I've been to New Zealand and seen some beekeepers over there a few times, but I have witnessed both. Do you know what surprises me? And I don't know if you've come across this. I think there's a better space for more horizontal beehives for hobbyists.
I have one. It's very cool.
I don't, and I just sit here going, why haven't I got one? And this winter I will make sure I get one, and I will come into spring and I'll make sure that there is a colony in a horizontal Langstroth hive with these in it. And I really need to see how that goes. I've got someone testing that for me who does that. It's a whole, just so much easier. You remove all lifting, any heavy lifting.
You're not going up and up and up. 100%.
So I think this would fit in really well into that horizontal hive process. So we've definitely got to get into that. What else are you thinking? Be the most critical, Sarah, that you can. I love to hear what might be going on or what your customers might think, because you work with
so
their issues.
This is a very, very New Zealand issue, and I don't know if you know about this, Simon, but in Aotearoa, in New Zealand, we have toxic honey.
You do too. I've forgotten the name of it, but I do know it.
No, toxic. We call it toxic honey. It's from the plant tutu.
Right.
And so if we harvest our honey before the end of the year, before December 31st, absolutely no trouble. That's the
Yep.
law. You can eat it, you
Yep.
can sell it, you can do
That's
whatever.
right.
You got to tick the selling boxes, you know, for health and safety and all that jazz. But you can eat it, no sweat. But if you harvest your honey after the 1st of January, if you would like to sell it in any way, shape, or form,
That's right. Yeah.
you have to get turned testing. But on the other side, of course, if you're just having it for yourself, which I feel like a lot of hobbyists will want this just for themselves, you don't have to. But yeah, that's only sort of one thing. I wonder if there's anybody out there looking at this who's selling market honey, you know, on the Saturday markets or something. But I mean, they still have to do that anyway. They still have to take all their honey off and then test it and all
Someone
that jazz.
who,
But that's just
someone, what's the
yeah.
technical challenge that might exist with what we've got, do you think?
It's more because when you do the testing, right now, how we do it is we take all of the honey off, you know, what we call batch, you know, one big batch from one whole apiary or whatever, mix it all up together and then take a sample out of that. And because
Yep.
we've mixed it all together, you know that if there was any tertian poison in there, it
It
will
would
be all
show.
mixed together. Yeah, and you take it out and you test it and say, yes, that whole entire batch is perfectly fine, away you go. But if you're doing little bits, yeah, you kind of have
You're
to
not going
test
to, you
each little
can't be
bit.
as certain, can you? Yeah. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting. That's a really good
yeah.
point. That's something I hadn't thought of, how you do that, because
Mm,
something down the track that I'll come back to that point. There's a university over here that are like, yep, we're going to get this because they want to do particular testing in
cool.
small, without having to do remove the honey from a whole frame. They look at this and go, well, we can do testing of honey, small
Mm,
section, leave the rest of the honey there. And they
mm,
are content with that. So there's a university over here, I won't name them at the moment, but that see that as an easy thing to do. But the way you put it makes it look like a bit of an issue, because you're not
mm,
putting it all together and then doing that test. Something that's really, I really wanted to tell you about, and it's a bit of a, I don't know, it's a bit, how do you change people's behaviours and thoughts over time, is something well beyond me. But I see a
mm.
complete different space in the future for how honey gets to the honey consumer. Now, you might be a beekeeper, so you know what the deal is. You go to your hive, you go and spend 2.5 days harvesting honey with all that mess and all that waste.
2.5 days cleaning. Yep.
Or maybe you do it the easy way. But can you imagine a system without having to be a beekeeper? You can harvest your own honey or you can harvest honey in your own home. And what I mean by that is you don't need to have the beehives. You don't need to have the frames. I'll put that out the way. You just have an in-home harvesting machine. And instead of getting your honey in a container or in a squeezy bottle, jar, you might go to the local market, or you might go to a local beekeeper and they provide honey in a cassette. Beautiful
Mm,
capped honey, as fresh as it was the time. It hasn't even oxidized with the air because it's still capped. And it literally, you go home and have that in-home honey harvesting experience
wow.
without even owning the bees. What do you think people would think about
That's that is very cool because we sell what we call cut comb honey, or like the comb, you know, so expensive.
that? Yeah, it is.
And you're right, a lot of times it's been already been cut and like you say, it's already been in the air and like say you know, and touched by whoever and gone through what's kind of processes. But that's quite cool that you can say exactly where it's come from and you do it yourself, hands on. That's very cool.
What do you think about a commercial honey or a larger scale honey producer? All they have to do is go out to their beehives. The testing thing is what you made me think about earlier, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But put this in a container, label it, and it's ready to go. They don't have to go through all those different steps that a commercial honey producer has to go through. They're going to love it or
Mm,
hate the idea. I don't know. But I also suggest they could probably then have this honey sold as a premium because
yeah.
the quality guarantee that sits behind that. So
Mm,
that's a space that I see a real opportunity for in the future.
mm.
But when I said to you before about like changing behaviour, like people are used to the squeezy bottle, people are used to the jar. But it's just an interesting thought that I wanted to get your eye.
Mm. I see that positives of that is that because I've been out with people who do harvest the cut comb and they are checking it every 2 or 3 days to make sure that once the whole frame is capped, then they can take it. They don't have to wait for the whole frame. Do you know what
That's
I
the
mean? They could
beauty.
lift
Yeah,
and go, okay, today I can take 2, 3 cassettes, put it back in. Like that definitely a positive, definitely.
And to add to that, they can even reposition cassettes because they normally have bees normally follow a bit of a pattern, don't they?
Yeah.
You might take the cassettes out that are closest to the middle, move some in,
True.
starting, and then
Oh
refill
yeah.
from the sides.
100%. 100%. That's very smart. Yeah. And that saves
Pretty
all that
easy.
time of having to, yeah. Oh,
Pretty
that's smart.
easy. But that's something we're thinking about is how do we change the behaviour? And do you know what it does? You know the issue of honey fraud as much as most people, I'm sure, where people change, add things to their honey to make it not quite the real deal. You would have heard all the things about testing honey. The Apimondia Awards were cancelled for this coming year in Copenhagen because they just don't know how to be in front of the issue. I think that this could go a long way forward for guaranteeing honey that from beehive to consumer hasn't been touched.
Yeah, because you've got all the words out there about unpasteurized and raw and all that jam. You can't fake that little cassette. You can't fake the honey into there. 100%.
Pretty hard, isn't it? Yeah. So I think that there's an interesting future with that. We're going to Apimondia in September to Copenhagen to have a real conversation with people about that.
Yeah.
I know that I don't know how bad it is in New Zealand. It's not as big a deal in Australia as say what it is in Europe and North America for fraudulent honey. It is still like imported honey is a real problem here too, but that's something that we want to help overcome. So yes, I'm thinking about the small. When we started talking before the cameras hit record, we're talking about like this is a really good thing for the small scale home hobbyist, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sort of beehives. That's sort of where I feel like we sit, probably even more with just a couple of beehives. I'm not trying to replace someone who's got 20 beehives and wants to harvest hundreds of kilos. I'm not trying to do that. We want to we want to fit into the person who just wants to have a little bit of honey more often and do so easily and quickly. So there's that. Then there's that whole, how do we do something? Oh, the home honey consumer. So this is not the device that I want to put in someone's home who's just the consumer. I want to put something a lot nicer and a bit more sleek and a bit more suited to just the home honey consumer. And then there's what we have to do with the commercial honey producer. So there's all this future of where we see this going. But right now, actually next month, in fact, what are we? Yeah, next month, March, we launch this particular version for our home beekeeper on Kickstarter. That's sort of that's cool. The now, and then you've heard a bit of the future as well.
I just think it's amazing because the amount of, like I say, this is again in New Zealand, hobby beekeepers, the amount of my hobby beekeepers who aren't even there for the honey. You know what I mean? Like this would be an absolute bonus because they know that taking that big box of honey off is just too much for them. That's not why they're there, and that's not sort of their aim. But if they could have this, how amazing is that they could just take a couple off, taste their hard-earned, you know what I mean, all the bees work and stuff, but not have that huge rigmarole and buying all those extra things in the background. I think it's fantastic. I do. I think it's very, very cool.
I'm yet to do it, but it might happen soon as I look down below me full of frames with honey in it. I need to do a full harvest of a full frame in one go. But you saw how long it took to harvest one cassette.
Yeah.
One cassette, 40 seconds, because I spun it twice, 2 lots of 20 seconds. Take them out, swap them over. We reckon you do a whole frame, clean up and all. You saw what it was like to clean up in 10 minutes. And 10 minutes is probably longer than you need if it comes out mostly in the first spin as well. So that whole idea that people can just be good at keeping their bees, be really thorough and aware of the health and well-being of their bees, and not have to spend so much mental energy and time energy and physical energy in harvesting. We just want them to be able to look after their bees. You said it already. Most people just love their bees and want to be around them, and the honey's almost the side thing, off to the side, and it only becomes such a major part of it because it had to, but it doesn't have to.
I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
I am even picturing myself like if I did do a whole box, if I just had a really big, like what they call the steam, like a big Tupperware container, if I had enough to just sort of take each cassette off, put it in my little bee-proof container, replace the cassette straight away, if I wanted to, like if I had that many, bam, take that whole box inside, And how easy is it to remove bees from a tiny little cassette? Easier than a whole entire frame. Like it's just, yeah, there's
Absolutely.
just so many, doesn't matter sort of how you do it or how big it gets, like say someone with 20 hives. I still think you do it. You would just
Yep.
have them, I would pop out the old ones with the honey, pop in the new ones. Away you go. Like,
Yeah. No, that's right. Could you see
yeah.
yourself the other way as well? Like you just want a little bit of honey for the next, you had
Oh,
some friends coming over,
yeah.
they're dying to taste your honey. You could just take a cassette or two out when you do your next hive inspection before they come, and you could just do it
Easy.
during a hive inspection because not many,
Easy.
well, we've only got a certain number of people that have been testing this for us. And because we had such a bad season here, we had fewer people, again, that were actually able to do any harvesting for us. But that whole idea of being in a normal hive inspection and being able to just go, I'd like a couple of 100 grams of honey, and they might only harvest one or maybe two cassettes. Could you see people doing that?
Easy. And it's just, like I say, as an absolute bonus. Like
Yep.
it's not, I'm out here to collect, I've got to get all the gear and get, it's just like say having a normal hive inspection. And while you're there, oh, I can take a little, a little something on the side. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, cool.
I
Well, thank
100%
you.
could see that.
Well, we've talked about a lot. Is there anything that's still pressing on your mind? Any final questions you've got or thoughts?
One little technical question. In
Please.
terms of weight, are they like one frame? Is it the same weight as a normal frame?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Do you know
So
the weight?
I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. The way that this particular frame here is manufactured is not how we will manufacture the ones in the future. This is small scale manufacturing. So it's actually, this one's quite heavy, to be honest. The cassettes themselves weigh almost nothing. They're really lightweight. The bulk of the weight will be in the honey. So when you lift this up full of honey, say 1.4 kilos, let's say they've been really industrious and it's come out a bit from the surface here, maybe it's 1.5 kilos. So that could weigh that, and the whole frame itself wouldn't weigh more than another half a kilo. That's probably exaggerating by a lot. We're talking under 2 kilograms, and we know that when a normal frame is full, it could be 3.5 kilograms, couldn't it? So some people criticise what we do here, and it's fine. That's just their thoughts. Because actually, I'll turn it around. It might be a bit more visual, easier to see. Yeah, that's easier to see. You can see there's a bit of lost space that we can't harvest honey between. I honestly think that that's not an issue. But some people say, oh, look at all that missed space. You could be harvesting so much more. Okay, sure. But that's not really what we're trying to do here. We're not trying to harvest and create efficiencies of harvest that are really high. But we can harvest one of these quickly. That sort of is what I'm looking for. So some people, so when you look at that, that's where we lose a bit of that weight in the hive because it's not full in the frame, because it's not full of honey, because there are gaps in how the frame works. And that's not heavy to lift. And the next version's even lighter again. So
I just think so when we go to harvest honey, I look at the whole frame, obviously in a normal frame, and we would only take it, the whole frame, because that's all you can take is the whole thing, if it was over 80% capped.
Yep.
So that right now, if that was 50, 60% capped, I could still take out those individuals. Do you see what I mean? So I think that's quite a null and void fight there, saying, oh, you can't take it all. Actually, you could probably take more. Because if you can take the ones that are already capped, and then I can whiz them out in 20 seconds, put them back in, and like you say, they'll refill them. So I think that's a...
Let's have a look at this together.
Yeah.
With an example, maybe. There's another frame. You can see there, certainly one that's ready.
Yeah.
This one here. You can see some that are getting quiet. You can. I've got to say, it looks beautiful. My perspective here, this was needed about another day or two on before removing it. We'll go back in the hive, but this one won't get harvested. But you can see, I could take that. I know we're on a nectar flow because nectar's pouring in. Full disclosure, we better show you the other side. So that's the opposing side. So it's really...
Yeah, I'd still take that.
And you can see where it's coming. But that just helps. Oh, look at that. Even that one looks close. Not so on the other side, but you're just monitoring the two sides. You're seeing how it's all coming.
But like you say, you could move them around to sort of manipulate's a mean word, but sort of manipulate what they're doing anyway, and kind of, I should use the word force, but you know what I mean? Put those frames, the cassettes, in the places where they are willingly putting the honey. And
well, they wouldn't do anything they would, if they didn't like it, they wouldn't do it. So when you say
100%.
manipulate or
100%.
force, they're just going to do something. They
You're
want to do it.
correct.
Do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's that. Yeah.
No, that's yeah.
Any other cool questions or thoughts or concerns? Because I'd love to know them. I know that we've talked about a lot today. We've gone through heaps of different things.
I know. I feel like my little brain's just picturing me taking out little cassettes.
Good.
Double checking this is just for cuteness, but the little extractor, you're saying it plugs in USB plugs, charge. Is that correct?
Yeah. I'll just move that out of the way again, just so you can talk about it one more time. So
That's
there's this
right.
base. You can see the lights on right
Oh,
now.
okay, that's the charge.
It's got a USB.
Yeah.
And when we fully charge it, I don't know how long it takes. I don't think I've ever checked that, Sarah. I could talk to
we charge everything, Simon. Don't stress.
I've got my electrical engineers who know all that. There's a question I've never bothered to ask them.
I'll plug it in next to my phone and my tablet and my watch and my.
That's what I do. It sits in my
Yeah,
kitchen and
yeah.
it's just there. But this will harvest 2 full frames, no worries.
Yeah.
And do you know what you can also do if you wanted to do more? Take a battery pack out,
Yeah.
and it keeps topping it up as you go. Or you can plug it in and harvest the whole time as well.
But that's what I mean. It's like that cuteness of having it right next to the hive, just for cute factor. But my brain is more, like I say, less gear to take. I would just pop the cassettes again into a little plastic container. I've always got a container with a lid, you know, to have any beef stuff. Chuck them in there, into the kitchen, you know, in a nice area that I can just wipe the honey down. Not that it looks like I'm going to get honey anywhere. Get used to that, not making a mess. And away you go. Like it's not, I think it's cool. I really do.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very cool.
This has been unreal to have the conversation with you. I just wanted to mention one last thing about what we're doing next.
Yes.
People can go to hivekeepers.com website and they can sign up to our wait list. That just makes sure you get communicated to about what we're doing. And that's so you can be aware of the crowdfunding launch that we have next month in March. We're pushing it back a bit. We were going early March. We want to go late March. Now we just want to do it. We just need to adjust a few things. So late March, we go to launch on Kickstarter. That's where people essentially pre-purchase having one of these, and then delivery is later this year. So then we go to manufacture. So we're at the point now where we're almost ready to manufacture, but we need to go through this next phase on Kickstarter. People get involved that way, get behind it because they love it. Yeah. And then in about October, we will deliver. So we're delivering to New Zealand, of course, Australia, the United States, Canada, UK, and Europe as part of this first campaign. And then down the track, we'll open it up more. This is the sort of thing, Sarah, I would have loved for you to have been testing and show everyone. We've had such a small little test group here in Australia, though. Well, not small, but we've had to keep it close, I should say. Yeah. And but I would love, we'll do this again one day when you've used it and you can go, Simon, I love all this about it. Simon, you've got to fix this for next time. And we really,
that's what I always say to beekeepers, that we learn, beekeepers are always hands-on learners. So I'm very keen to have a go.
This has been thrilling, though. Thank you for asking lots of good questions, because that really helps us understand. And obviously, you know your people, so that's really good too. And I'll look forward to seeing you amongst it all again sometime soon.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I honestly think it's very, very cool. And I'm quite excited to pop little cassettes out and push that little bit. I think it's very cool. Thank you, Simon. Thank you.
It's been great. It's been great to chat. Thanks, Sarah.
Awesome.